Well, Emily, I can't believe this is our final show of the semester already.
Max, you know this is the senior show, right? We'll give Max a moment to gather his thoughts. In the meantime, OwlSports Update is live, and it starts right now. Welcome back to OwlSports Update. I'm Sage Hurley, class of 2022. But there's a good chance you know that by now. 7 semesters later, it's so hard to believe this is the final edition of our tenure at Temple.
Thank you for bringing me back to reality. I'm Max Kretzel, class of 2022. We have about 30 minutes left on the desk in our Temple careers, and we don't want to waste it. Let's kick things off with some football. Another Temple Owl has left the nest. Safety Chauncey Moore announced that he is entering the transfer portal, and with graduation approaching, this senior is looking to spend his final 2 years of football elsewhere. Despite being in the Owls program for 3 years and dealing with the pandemic, Moore is looking to be a starter rather than a bench backup.
But that's not all that's new in Temple football. Joining us on the desk to talk through all things name, image, likeness is Lindsay Moppert, class of 2022. Thanks for joining us, Lindsay.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I am absolutely pumped to be here.
So, Lindsay, I know you followed up with Coach after spring ball. What do you have to say about the last few weeks?
Well, so you guys know, I spoke with him before spring ball, and he had specific things that he wanted to hit on, and then I got the opportunity to speak with him after, and, he actually surprised me with his response. He said, when I asked him the question, what's next, he actually said that he wanted to fix his players' mentalities first.
I would love to see the leadership piece continue to develop. That needs to take a huge step forward going into this off season. We need guys holding each other accountable. We still have guys that are showing leadership traits. We have guys that are showing even single-digit traits that are still not of the mindset of bringing others along with them. They just don't know how. It's not that they're not willing, they just don't know how.
So, like Coach Drayton said, obviously they need to work on, developing their leaders and working on all of that, before going even further in this Drayton era. And one of the things that I really loved that he said during this interview was he talked a little bit about single digits there. I mean, you have to love that he's holding on to that Temple tradition.
Definitely. Lindsay, with you being a student athlete in your own right, how do you feel about the new NIL deal with NBC Sports?
Well, if there's one thing that I know about being a student athlete is that it can get very stressful. And I think that with the addition of, NIL on everyone's plates, I think that just added a whole nother addition to stress. And I think that, this program's great. The NBC Sports Athlete Direct, it links student athletes with advertisers through trusted marketplaces. And one of the great things about that is the key word there, trusted marketplaces, because, a lot of the times student athletes try and do this by themselves and they don't exactly know where to go, who to trust. So it may have taken a year, but they got there, and I think this is a great step in the right direction. And honestly, I would be right there with them if I was not graduating in, I think, maybe 14 days. So I guess on that note, this is actually my time to say goodbye. I think that I've decided that there's honestly just too many goodbyes this time of year, so maybe we can just not do this right now. But if I have to go, I'm happy that my last minute or two was up on this desk, spent next to you two. It's been a lot of fun, but Mop It Up is officially OwlSports Update retired. Take it away, Sage.
Thanks, Lindsay. Now back to the field, where ECU started off hot on its home turf versus Temple. The Pirates, they hit the back of the net 6 times before Temple answered, and they answered with a vengeance, overcoming a daunting 6-goal deficit and tying it up by the end of the third. Now, grad student Quinn Nikolai scored 5 goals on the day. Maeve Tobin claimed her first career hat trick. The game stayed close until the fourth quarter. That's when the Owls pulled ahead strong to extend their win to 3 and improve to 10-4. Temple wins this one 15-10.
It's been an up and down season for the lacrosse team, but right now it's up. They're riding a 3-game winning streak thanks in part to Mackenzie Roth. The junior midfielder has totaled 15 points over that span and now leads the team in assists with 32 on the year. Roth will look to continue her hot streak in a conference showdown against number 10 Florida this Saturday at 12 p.m. in Gainesville. Before heading to Virginia to start his new professional career, OwlSports Update's Gil Rosen, class of 2022, joins us one final time at the studio set to talk about the lacrosse team and as it moves deeper into conference play. Hey, Gil.
I want to give a shout out to my mom, Bonnie Rosen. However, my Bonnie Rosen isn't the same Bonnie Rosen in charge of the lacrosse team. That Bonnie Rosen has the Owls in a tie at the top of the AAC with those Florida Gators. These two teams match up Saturday with identical records of 3-0 in conference and 10-4 overall. Quinn Nicolai has been on fire this season after transferring from Penn State. She led the Owls with 5 goals in a comeback win against ECU. Last Saturday, this earned her AAC Midfielder of the Week. Nicolai isn't the only AAC player named to an honor this past week. Emma Lepento for the Gators had a career-high 7 goals on 11 shots against Vanderbilt. This earned her AAC Freshman of the Week for the 7th straight week. It's a 12 p.m. start for the top spot in the AAC. Reporting from the studio set for the final time, I'm Gil Rosen. Thanks for having me, Max and Sage.
Thank you so much for joining us, Gil. It's been a pleasure working with you this past year. We're up against our first break, but don't go anywhere.
A fan favorite segment returns one last time with a change at the anchor desk. Stick with us. Welcome back. For the final time in my OwlSports Update career, I have the opportunity to introduce the M&M mailbag with the co-anchor who has been with me from the start.
One of the highlights of my first semester anchoring has been this segment with you, but for the last time, we are taking questions from our own crew. It starts with Ray Dunn, class of 2022, and happy birthday, it's his birthday. And he asks, what do you predict will be the biggest Temple athletics story of the 2022-2023 school year?
The biggest story in 2022-2023 for Temple Athletics will be the stout defensive line of the football team. Antoine Smith will have these guys ready to do battle in the trenches, and I predict Temple will double its sack total from a season ago from 17 to 34. And if they don't, at least I won't be here for everyone to laugh in my face. Our graphics guru, Aaron Carty, class of 2022, asks, what's your favorite memory as an anchor duo this semester? Wow, this should be fun.
So by far, my favorite memory with you was our pre-production meetings every night before every show, getting there at 12 in the afternoon and not leaving until 9 at night with all the halal trips in between. It has been such a fun experience. Our meetings might not always be productive, but we always find a way to get things done and have a lot of fun. I'm grateful for your positive energy, your amazing work ethic, and of course for supporting my caffeine addiction by bringing me Richies all the time. I know you will succeed in wherever your career takes you, and it has been an absolute privilege sharing the desk with you this semester. With that, I want to thank the entire white team for being the best team out there. I also want to thank my amazing producers, Liam, Cameron, and Haley Palmer. You three push me to better myself each week, and I couldn't be more thankful. I also want to thank my professor, Matt Fine, class of 1992, for trusting me and giving me the opportunity to sit at the desk this semester.
Emily, you are amazing, and I am so excited to see all that you accomplish in your senior year ahead. The weekend scores were so action-packed they couldn't all fit on one screen. To start, the golf team finished second out of 15 teams at the Yale Spring Invitational, with sophomore Graham Chase finishing 3 over par for the tournament. Track and field competed at the Larry Ellis Invitational last weekend, and a few Owls set personal best in the 1500 meter. And lastly, the rowing team brought home 5 medals at the Kirk Cup Regatta. Moving on now to the tennis courts, both teams faced the Golden Hurricane over the weekend, and they are results to forget. Tulsa took down the women's team 6-1, and the men's team was not far off, falling by a final 4-2. After those losses to Tulsa, both teams stayed in Oklahoma for the AAC postseason tournament. Brett Rehack joins us at the Plasma to break it all down. Hey, Brett.
Thanks, Max. The AAC tournament kicked off its first round Wednesday afternoon, and the 8th-seeded Temple women's team was matched up against 9th-seed USF. Despite having a 3-1 lead for most of the match, the women's season ended Wednesday after they fell 4-3 to the Bulls. South Florida will move on to face top-seeded Central Florida. While Temple may be eliminated, there's still one more underdog team that I would keep my eye on. Memphis is my sleeper pick to win it all. The Tigers had a bye for the first round, but if they can knock out Tulane in the quarterfinals, I think they could go all the way. The men's team hopes to fare better as its tournament kicks off Friday. Temple's drawn 1-seed SMU to start just a few weeks ago. The Owls lost their seasonal matchup with the Mustangs 4-0. I wouldn't expect much from the Owls in this matchup as SMU has been a powerhouse this season with a 19-6 overall record. Not to mention, SMU has won its last 8 matches leading into the tournament, and they've beaten every AAC team scheduled to play handily, making them my favorite to take home the crown. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Brett Rehack. Max and Sage, back to you on the desk.
Thanks, Brett. Much like tennis, our time with OwlSports Update is coming to a close. We've seen a lot during our tenure, but here we have for you our favorite moments in Temple athletics. Temple football didn't have much success last season, to put it kindly, but you can argue there was one bright spot for the Owls in its homecoming win versus Memphis. Now, being at that game as a fan, I'm sure it was a great experience, but as a reporter, my focus was only on not screwing anything up. It was the first time fronting a package for me, and I was clearly more focused on my words than my body language, as you can see me standing like a statue. Shout out to the editing wizard, Trevor Schmidt, for filming and helping me throughout a day I certainly will never forget.
That's so great, Max. And I was off duty for that game, and you're right, it was a blast to watch. But for me, although it's impossible to choose a favorite memory covering Temple sports, one that'll stay near and dear to my heart is my trip down to Texas to cover the AAC tournament with Josh. Josh and I worked together for 3 straight semesters. He was my very first co-anchor. And even though Temple's loss against Tulane was one of the toughest basketball games I've had to watch in recent memory, covering AAC basketball in the Lone Star State and exploring Fort Worth was something special.
On that note, it's time for one final goodbye. I want to thank everyone who helped me here at OwlSports Update, and although my time here was short, I have met some of the most supportive and talented individuals along the way. Thank you, Emily Cochran, for being the best co-anchor I could have asked for. The amazing Haley Palmer to listening to all of my daily problems. And most importantly, Matt Fine for giving this transfer student the opportunity to sit at the desk.
Max, it's been a pleasure sharing the desk with you today, and it's been a pleasure learning and growing in TV3 for the past 4 years. From the OwlSports Update alum who encouraged me to get involved, to the freshmen I've met who have such an exciting few years of Temple sports ahead of them, and everyone in between, thank you all so much. My experience at OwlSports Update has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. That being said, for the last time, he's Matt Skrasula, I'm Sage Hurley. We're officially done, but stay tuned. There's more OwlSports Update after this break.
Great.
Welcome back to OwlSports Update. We're clearly not Max and Sage, but it's our senior day too. He's Josh Safran, class of 2022, and I'm Ray Dunn, class of 2022.
Now, I certainly wish I had the voice of Max, but for now, you'll have to settle for me. But there's not a lot of settling going on at Temple right now. While it may be the offseason for a handful of teams, the preparation is plentiful before some players return home for the summer.
The spring season may be time for growth around some of these spring seasons, but for club baseball, this is what they play for. The club is finally playing a normal season and has had some lofty expectations. Joining us now to talk about that is OwlSports Update's Tanner Gilmartin, class of 2022. Hi, Tanner.
Thanks, Ray. It's not easy being a college student on a team that requires its players to cover most of the expenses. I caught up with the president and secretary of the club baseball team to talk about their struggles finding transportation, their search for equipment, and the team's recent success.
Garrett Breslin is on a budget, not for books or pizza money, but for gas money, along with new baseball gear. That's the reality for just about every player on every club team at Temple, including one of the school's more successful teams in baseball.
We had an away game this semester. It was recently, so the prices had gone up even further with gas prices and like everything.
We had to order new hats this year, so obviously that was kind of a big thing. And they didn't quite get here on time.
The baseball team is 9-2 and on the verge of qualifying for the regional tournament. and staying afloat wouldn't be possible if it was not for the fundraising and donations brought in by both the school and former players.
So we have a bat bag that is kind of like a big thing for us. There's probably 15 or 20 bats in the bat bag that we have.
Used gloves, helmets, and bats help the team to compete, but it's team morale that helps build the foundation to success.
We just have a group of guys that, we like being around each other. We love practicing together.
The Owls need a couple more wins in their games versus Rowan and Millersville to qualify for regionals in Virginia, but qualifying might not be the toughest part.
I think the biggest struggle at this point is just getting to Virginia.
It seems that the Owls' focus is now on getting to Virginia. But just in case you were wondering, the Division II World Series is over 140 miles farther in Butler, Pennsylvania. Live from Giese Field, I'm Tanner Gilmartin. Josh and Ray, back to you.
Thank you, Tanner. Now, Temple Athletics has seen a ton of shakeups in just the last couple of months. One of the biggest has been in women's basketball with the hiring of Diane Richardson. OwlSports Update's Johnny Lee Williams, class of 2022, has more on Richardson's additions to her staff. Hey, Johnny.
Thanks, Josh. Diane Richardson, the new women's basketball head coach, has added 4 new people to her staff. Her new hires include Cheyenne Curley, a former Division I talent who has spent the last 5 seasons with Richardson at Towson. Miles Jackson, a Towson alum who has spent the last 2 seasons as Director of Operations for his alma mater. Then there's Jasmine Allen, who has gained experience from USA Basketball and the NBA. She will be the Director of Basketball Operations at Temple. And finally, Philly native Zach Kancher, who has spent the last 5 years at Towson, will join Richardson's staff as Associate Head Coach. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Johnny Williams. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Johnny. As the new staff settles into their new homes, the team will be playing in a new home. The Enquirer's Sam Cohn reported earlier this week that the women's basketball team will be taking its home games next door to the Liacouras Center. The team's played a handful of games there over the last few years, but has never called it a permanent home.
Max and Sage did it earlier. We'll do it too. Let's take a look back at some of our most memorable Temple moments. So this one I have won't go down as my favorite moment, but certainly the most memorable. Going into a 2022 home game against ECU, Temple was down to their 5th string quarterback, Matt Duncan, going into this game already crazy. Then right before the game starts, it comes out Matt Duncan has been suspended for violating team rules. So Temple's forced to their 6th string quarterback, Kamal Gray, a namesake more known for the roots than football. This game was scheduled for a noon kickoff, but no refs or players took the field at noon. The game was delayed for an hour due to COVID, and once the game finally started, Temple trotted out wide receiver Brandon Mack to take some snaps in the second half.
That was a crazy day. On a much lighter note, the biggest Temple basketball game at Liacouras Center of our careers came freshman year. Temple, UCF. Fran Dunphy's final home game, a trip to the NCAA tournament on the line. The Owls delivered. Forget what happened in that play-in game. That environment was electric, and it's something that I will never forget.
No, me neither, but we are not done just yet, and neither of these Owls. We'll give you another preview of a new feature piece we've been working on.
Plus, we reflect a little more on 4 years of covering Temple athletics when OwlSports Update returns in 90 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to OwlSports Update. 1 block left in our college careers, but the content at OwlSports Update never stops.
Now, this may be our last show here, but we are not done just yet. One more program on air at OwlSports Updates. Vic Ragapathy, class of 2022, has more about our upcoming documentary on Philadelphia's love for college hoops. Hey, Vic.
Hey, Josh. Get to know the fervent fans, the triumphant teams, and the vaunted venues of Philadelphia college basketball through the eyes of those that know it most. Our upcoming documentary is called For the Love of the City. Here's a sneak peek.
Temple, LaSalle, St. Joe's, Penn, Villanova.
The 5 schools, they loved each other, but they hated each other.
He was coached by John Chaney.
It was a family because everybody cared about one another.
This is a basketball city.
I don't know any other city that would care enough.
And the fact that they played in one venue for the most part just made it different.
It's just remarkable. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's just unprecedented.
Stay tuned for that next week, Thursday at noon. Thank you so much, Vic. As our senior show winds down, it's about time we take a moment to reflect on the journey of the last 4 years. The good, the bad, the being scolded by a coach.
That's right, and unfortunately, unlike athletics, OwlSports Update was not given an extra year of eligibility, which means everyone in their senior year will be taking their talents to the next level. But before we get out of here, we'll take a look at our very own career highlight reels.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hey guys, the Cherry and White game has been a tradition on Temple's campus for years.
Before the switch, the Owls are part of the Big East, where they are 4 for 5 in conference play. If the Owls want to continue to have success, they need to win the next 4 conference games in the AAC to improve upon last season.
After a disappointing season last year, even the 11-time NCAA champion, Coach Gino Auriemma, knows that the hard work and passion that Coach Cardozo brings to the table is going to be enough for this basketball team to have a great bounce-back season.
White hails from Nassau.
Thanks, guys. Just as the men will look towards Quentin Rose, J.P. Mormon, and Nate Pierre-Louis, the women's team will rely on junior Mia Davis to lead them to success.
We're starting off with unprecedented moves by the Temple administration and the American Athletic Conference in response to the coronavirus.
At this point in his college career, things were looking up. This was all put on pause after experiencing a minor setback for the bigger picture.
Are you or a loved one experiencing lack of sleep, aggression, wasting computer ink, or terrible pics? You might be suffering from symptoms of March Madness.
The challenge these past 3 weeks for Coach Carey has been getting enough guys on the field. With COVID-19 protocols and injuries tallying up, it's been impossible to get guys from here, Edberg Olson Hall, to here at the Lincoln Financial for game day.
Memphis messed with the one guy, and the Owls pull out a homecoming victory.
All in all, club sports are back.
Growing up as twin sisters in Georgia, both Nicolette and Imani, unsurprisingly, have had many similar interests.
Fatisse and the freshman class have been exceeding expectations so far. They look for their first tournament appearance since 1992. If they want to get there, they got to win the Big East.
March Madness may refer to the Division I collegiate basketball tournament. But for Temple's Irish dance team, this refers to the number of shows and parades, which includes about half a dozen.
From Raymond James Stadium in sunny Tampa Bay, Florida, we have a look inside of Temple's Week 7 matchup against USF.
Is it a bear? Is it a cat? Both? Who knows?
I think Houston will turn up when it matters most and win this one going away. Go Cougs, make me look good.
Adieu. Parting is such a sweet sorrow. Thank you to everyone who made the 4 years so fantastic. Josh Safran signing off one last time.
If I've learned anything my 4 years, 28-30, that's a steadfast rule. We've got to get out of here. Thank you so much for everything to everyone. I'm Ray Dunn, and I hope to talk to you all again really soon.
We'll see you.